The night before our wedding, Ethan held his childhood sweetheart in his arms and asked me for one night of freedom. He said that after tonight he would remain loyal to our marriage until the end of his life. I looked at him for a long while and then nodded in agreement. As he passed by me, he added generously, "You can also find a man tonight if you want. I promise I won't mind." There was no need to look elsewhere. I walked straight over to his closest friend, looked deeply into his beautiful eyes and said, "Let's sleep together tonight." If Ethan had his childhood sweetheart, didn't I have a first love too? The private room was full of people, his close friends, my bridesmaids and girlfriends. After a few rounds of drinks, everyone was getting tipsy. Suddenly, Ethan wrapped his arm around his childhood friend Lily and said, "Lily, you see, childhood sweethearts really can't compete with someone who appears out of nowhere. Isn't that right? I'm being snatched away by Rachel Lewis, the one who just came into my life. I'm getting married tomorrow. Don't you feel a bit of regret?" Lily's face instantly turned bitter, her eyes on the verge of tears. "Even if I regret it, what difference does it make? You're the one who fell in love with her later on." Ethan stared at the glimmering tears in Lily's eyes with a face full of pity. "How about we make up for that regret tonight?" Lily looked up and asked, "How?" Then Ethan slowly turned to look at me and shouted, "Honey, we'll be husband and wife tomorrow. I swear I'll be faithful to our marriage until the day I die, and I'll never betray you. But tonight, the last night before our wedding, why don't we do something thrilling? Let's each have one night of freedom." The room burst into loud cheers and laughter, but when they saw the cold expression on my face, the room fell into dead silence. Ethan's intentions were painfully clear. He wanted to sleep with the girl he had flirted with throughout his youth just one night to make up for the fact that they had loved each other, but never crossed that final line. He was certain I wouldn't outright reject him, and afterward, as long as he coaxed me sweetly, I wouldn't make a fuss. He was so confident because even though he had pursued me passionately at the beginning in terms of social standing, it was obvious I had married far above my league. He thought I wasn't just infatuated with him as a person, but also deeply unwilling to give up his wealthy family background. After all, as the daughter of two ordinary factory workers, how could I possibly marry into a powerful family like his? Meeting him was already a stroke of incredible luck. And he wasn't wrong. I had experienced what it was like to be noticed by a rich young man and then targeted by his powerful family. But it hadn't happened with him. My girlfriends tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Rachel, don't be stupid. You can't agree to this." I looked at Ethan for a long time and finally saw the determination in his eyes, the kind that said he would get what he wanted no matter what. In the end, I nodded and said calmly, "All right, I agree." Laughter and applause exploded once again. The tense silence in the room instantly dissolved. "Sister-in-law, you're so generous. Definitely the kind of woman who can marry into the Carter family," someone said. "No wonder Ethan knelt in his dad's study for 3 days and 3 nights just to marry you. A woman who can walk through our doors has to have this kind of grace." A relaxed smile crept onto Ethan's previously tight lips. He pulled the obedient Lily closer into his arms, stood up and said, "All right, it's getting late. I still have a wedding to attend tomorrow. Can't stay up all night partying. Lily and I will head out now. Feel free to drink whatever you like and have fun. Put everything on my tab. Our little Lily is going to have a rough night." The room filled with teasing again. As Ethan walked past me once more, he lowered his eyes and said generously, "Honey, really, if you want to find a man tonight, I won't stop you. I promise I absolutely won't mind." He was banking on my pride and conservative personality, betting that I wasn't the type to play around, which was the only reason he dared say something like that to me. I turned to look at him. "Really?" He raised an eyebrow. "Of course, a man of his word. You know, I always mean what I say, just like when I told you I would marry you. I went through with it too. But compared to him, who acted like marrying me with some grand favor, I didn't owe him any generosity tonight. Especially not toward him and Lily." I withdrew my gaze from them and looked toward the far corner of the private room at the man who had sat there all night, with a face as cold as ice, completely silent. There was no need to go outside to find anyone. Ignoring the expression on Ethan's face, I got up and walked over to that man. Without hesitation, I knelt down at his feet, my posture low but deliberate. Emotions swirled in my eyes as I looked up at him and carefully invited, "Would you sleep with me tonight?" The cold-faced man leaned back against the leather sofa, towering above me. He looked as if he might kick me away at any second like I was something unworthy. Then suddenly, a mocking voice came from behind me. "Rachel, seriously, of all people, you choose him. He was hurt by his first love years ago. He hasn't touched a woman in forever." The name of that first love, Ava, stirred something in me. So that's her name? My thoughts raced. I stared at him, eyes unblinking, taking in the face that had haunted my sleepless nights countless times in the past. Seeing him again tonight, I wouldn't have had the courage to meet his eyes like this if not for the alcohol. My fingers dug into my palm, nails piercing my skin. Honestly, I wasn't sure how he would react to me now until the cold tip of a leather shoe lifted my chin. He raised his head slightly, his face turning even colder, the kind of expression that sent chills through you. With anger in his voice, he asked, "Are you sure?" I didn't want to back down. I bravely pressed my chin even more firmly against his shoe and said, "I'm sure." He stood up abruptly from the sofa. Most people in the room probably thought I had pushed him too far and was about to be thrown aside. After all, there were rumors that not long ago, a young actress had tried to flirt with him at a party. He thought she was blocking his way and with a single swing of his arm shoved her straight into a water fountain. She cried for help, but he didn't even look back, just walked away without a second thought. Now, even panicked and lunged forward to block him. Bro, come on. That's my wife you're talking about. Don't hit her. She didn't mean anything by it. Please just let it go." "Okay, Rachel, get up." "Didn't I tell you already? This guy, he's not someone you can mess with. He's not into women. And I know you're not interested in any other man but me. So stop pretending in front of me. Just go back and rest with your girlfriends, all right?" But something about what Ethan said must have rubbed him the wrong way, because the man suddenly shoved him several steps back. There was a blade in his eyes when he snapped, "Who said I'm not into women?" Before I could react, my vision spun. He had lifted me over his shoulder. His low, grumbling voice, full of resentment from some long-forgotten score, echoed beside my ear. "Rachel Lewis, you're the one who came looking for me." Just as he was about to carry me out in front of everyone's shocked eyes, Ethan chased after us and yelled, "What the hell, Ian? What are you doing?" Yes, his name was Ian Carter. Ian paused for a second and tilted his head slightly, his voice icy and without emotion. "What do you think I'm doing?" Ethan's tone turned sharp. "You're being serious about this? That's my wife you're carrying?" He kept calling me my wife again and again. Those two words were starting to grate. Ian turned his head and gave Ethan a deep, disdainful glance like he couldn't be bothered to waste a single more word on him. Then he adjusted me on his shoulder and started walking toward the door. Ethan clearly panicked. He rushed forward and grabbed Ian's arm. "Ian, we've been best friends since we were kids. We even wore the same damn pants growing up." But as he spoke, he looked at me, still slung over Ian's shoulder. "She's my wife, man. You know the rule. Never touch your friend's woman." Ian had no intention of putting me down. Instead, he flung Ethan's arm away and shoved him hard toward Lily, who'd been chasing after us and happened to be right by the door. The timing was perfect. He pushed Ethan directly into her, pinning her against the wall, their faces almost touched. With a chill in his voice, Ian said, "Then you better remember that rule. A good night like this is rare. Mind your own business." I was already a little dizzy from drinking, and now slung over Ian's back, my head spun even more. I wanted him to put me down, so I softly called his name, Ian. But all I got in return was his cold, cutting response. "Don't call me that. Are we close or something?" The second half of my sentence asking him to let me go got stuck in my throat. I clenched my teeth and swallowed it back. It was just dizziness. I could endure it. After all, I owed him. Not far away, Ethan was still fuming and looked like he was about to chase after us. "Ian Carter, don't you dare mess around. I'm not letting this go." But before he could move, some of his friends quickly pulled him back. "Come on, Ethan. One said, "You know how strong Ian's gotten since he returned from overseas. Don't start something with him. Remember that South Sea project a while back? You gave such a low quote and he didn't say a word out of respect for your friendship. He's definitely holding some grudges." Everyone knows you care about Rachel, and he's probably just trying to get under your skin. Maybe once they get downstairs, he'll just toss her aside. You know how he's been single for years. Haven't you noticed? We all joke about him. Remember the nickname? The Black Monk. Always scowling. Doesn't touch women. Runs from anything female. You were the one who started calling him that. Someone else added, "He's still hung up on that wild cat of a first love who dumped him. There's no way he'd actually touch your wife." Ethan didn't follow us after that. Ian and I had already walked far enough away. As we were getting into the elevator, I heard my two gorgeous bridesmaids mock Ethan from behind in sarcastic tones. "What? Can't handle it now?" One sneered. Wasn't he the one who said they'd each have one night of freedom? A gentleman never goes back on his word. Remember? You can go find a man. I won't mind. Well, looks like Rachel's a free woman tonight. In the VIP parking area on the first floor, Ian really did toss me right into the passenger seat of his private car. His black Pagani sped off into the dark night. We arrived at a high-end stylish villa somewhere I had never been, didn't recognize at all. The moment we walked in, he yanked off my coat, gripped the back of my neck roughly, and slammed his angry, vengeful kiss down on my lips. I gasped and tried to push him away. Ian. But he only held me tighter, pinning me against the wall until I couldn't move an inch. His tone was laced with fury. "Didn't you say you wanted to sleep with me? Why are you backing away now?" I had no response. I could only plead softly. "Please be gentle." The next second, he threw me onto the bed. He clearly had no intention of being gentle. Clothes were flung to the floor piece by piece. He was rough, completely unrestrained, without the slightest hint of tenderness, until he suddenly froze. It wasn't until he discovered I was still a virgin that he stopped. The rage and bitterness on his handsome but cold face finally softened a little. "You haven't slept with Ethan?" he asked. After being apart for so many years, how was I supposed to explain this situation to him? My teeth dug into my lips, and I forced out a vague answer. "We didn't have time. We were supposed to get married tomorrow, yet we hadn't even slept together. In today's world, who would believe that? Who could manage that? But of course I had my reasons." The truth was, Ethan and I had never really dated. We skipped that step entirely and went straight to engagement. That didn't mean he wasn't serious about marrying me, or that I didn't want to build a life with him. I genuinely wanted to make things work and walk with him through the rest of our days. But after tonight, it felt like everything was about to change. Ian's thick brows furrowed. He stared at me for a long time, clearly finding the whole thing unbelievable. If Ethan and I had never even been intimate, then what he was seeing now had to be real. I had never been with another man. The coldness in Ian's beautiful eyes slowly faded, replaced by a hint of red like the long suppressed sorrow and deep affection he had kept buried were finally daring to peek through. Just a little, just enough for me to see. At last he sighed and let down his guard, wrapping me into his arms. He gently kissed the corner of my lip, the very one he had just bitten Cree before. Then he pulled me into his embrace, rolling us over so my head rested against his shoulder and neck. As our skin brushed, I heard the heat in his breath as he whispered into my ear, "Rachel Lewis, I still love you." After he said those words, his kisses turned soft and lingering, even tinged with tears. The chandelier above blurred and swayed in my vision. It was already past midnight when my phone suddenly started vibrating nonstop. The melodious ringtone, which usually sounded pleasant, felt especially intrusive at that moment, cutting into the atmosphere and disrupting Ian's concentration. It was my phone. Ethan was calling. Who had the time or energy to deal with him right now? I intended to swipe it away, but my finger slipped and accidentally answered the call. Ethan's unsteady voice immediately came through the speaker. "Honey, why aren't you at home? Where did Ian leave you? Let's stop playing this dumb pre-wedding freedom game." I thought about it. This is so stupid. And Lily, she's totally worthless. She can't even compare to a single strand of your hair. Where are you? I'll come get you and bring you home. I really regret suggesting such a stupid thing back in the private room. Before I could even respond, Ian snatched the phone from my hand. His voice was mocking and filled with disdain. Too late to regret now. You can't take her home. She's in my bed. What? Ian? Oh, Ethan's voice stuttered in disbelief. Ian hung up mid-sentence and turned the phone off entirely, then casually flung it far away. But Ethan wasn't the one who had to suffer the consequences. I was. Ian carried me from one end of the bed to the other. He bit my ear and growled again. Minute after minute passed with no end in sight. I kept hoping, desperately hoping for just a brief pause, but it never came. Finally, the night faded completely and dawn broke. Not even the drawn curtains could block the growing brightness of the morning sun. Today was the day Ethan and I were supposed to get married. By now, I should have been getting ready to head home, putting on my wedding gown, sitting quietly in front of a vanity while the makeup artist carefully applied my bridal look, serene, expectant, waiting for Ethan to arrive in a grand procession to marry me. Of course, Ian knew all of this. But this man, who had spent the whole night tirelessly taking me apart and refusing to rest, had no intention of letting up. Pleading didn't work. Begging didn't work. Not even soft words made a difference. He just kept staring at me with those beautiful eyes, now flushed red, and kept asking me the same thing over and over. Don't marry him. Promise me, Rachel Lewis. Don't marry him. Promise me. I wanted to say yes. I really did. If only he would just give me a break. Let me catch my breath. At that point, I couldn't even form proper words anymore. After waiting so long with no answer from me, Ian collapsed onto me like he'd lost all hope. He clung to me tightly, burying me in his arms. His voice trembled with a quiet plea. Rachel, don't marry him. I'm begging you. This is too hard. Finally, he gave me enough space to respond. My voice was beyond recognition. Okay. The moment he heard it, he pushed himself up, eyes glowing. You said yes? I nodded hard. If you hadn't, I said, would you have actually let me go marry your so-called best friend? Besides, now that I've seen Ethan for who he really is, do you think I'm stupid enough to go through with it? Is Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard, lips moving like he was choosing his words carefully? If I said I wanted to start over to be with you again, would you be willing? My whole body ached and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I could only weakly raise my little fist and thump it against his chest. Ian Carter, you've kept me up all night, not even a minute of rest, and now you're asking if I'm willing. His brows finally relaxed, his whole face softening. So you are willing? All I could do was nod hard again. He kissed me with a loud, firm kiss at the corner of my mouth, then suddenly pulled me up. Rachel Lewis, come with me. I want to take you somewhere. Where? I asked. You'll know when we get there. I shook my head and flopped back onto the bed. No way. Let's do it another day. I'm too tired. I can't move an inch. He was firm. No, today, right now. Even if I can't move, then I'll carry you. Then I'll carry you, he said, already rushing to dress me. I was totally overwhelmed. My body was a mess after everything we'd done all night. Ian, I'm not clean. Don't just dress me like this. At least let me take a quick shower. He seemed to be in a hurry. It's fine. No one else will know. You can shower after we get back. Just toss the clothes and buy new ones. So, the two of us, disheveled, exhausted, barely covered in whatever we could grab, stumbled out the door, still flushed from an endless night. Ian carried me straight out of the villa and placed me in the passenger seat. He drove fast but steady. As we got in, I saw him discreetly check my handbag, though I wasn't sure what he was looking for. Barely 2 minutes after leaving the house, he said, Rachel, turn your phone on. Let your family know the wedding's off. No need for them to show up at the venue for nothing. Oh, right. I finally snapped back to reality. My brain was mushed from everything he'd put me through. I ignored the flood of messages and missed calls from Ethan and called my parents first. After I finished contacting my side of the family and friends, we arrived at Ian's mysterious destination. I turned my head and saw the bold red letters on the building ahead, Civil Affairs Bureau, Marriage Registration Office. This man had lost his mind completely. I stared at him, shocked, but he just smiled gently, cut the engine, and carried me out of the car. We sat on a bench in front of the office, which hadn't even opened yet. He hadn't even bothered to help us freshen up, hadn't cared how we looked. He just dragged me straight here. One arm was wrapped around my shoulders while the other held my hands tightly. Only then did I feel his nerves start to settle. "Rachel," he said softly. "We've been apart for 7 years. 7 years. That's a long time, don't you think?" I can't wait another second. "If you're willing, let's get married right now." Okay. How could I not be willing? My first love had waited for me 7 years. I had never truly let him go. Now that I finally had the chance to be with him again, why wouldn't I say yes? But then I remembered how years ago his mother had summoned me for a stern, cold meeting. Ian came from a powerful elite family. His name was high on national rich lists. Could a marriage between us really happen so easily? I couldn't stop myself from asking, "What about your family, Ian?" He cut me off immediately and looked me dead in the eye. 2 adults in love who want to be together, to stay together forever, and to have a certificate that protects that love. I don't think we need anyone's permission to do that. Our parents have their own views, but you and I are grown. This is between us. Of course, I'll go to your parents myself and apologize. I'll accept any punishment until they agree to let me be their son-in-law. Then he took a deep breath. But as for my family, Rachel, it was difficult in the past, and it's still difficult now. His eyes lit up with something fierce. I'll only say this once. If you dare run away again like you did 7 years ago, if you leave me behind again, I swear you're dead to me. I quickly leaned into his chest to calm him down. I'm not running. I won't back out again. I'll listen to whatever you say. When the office opened, more couples started lining up behind us. Ian pulled my ID from my handbag with practiced ease. That was what he had been looking for earlier when he rummaged through it. We were the first couple that morning to register for marriage. Neither of us had slept all night, and we both had dark circles under our eyes. We should have looked exhausted, but in that tiny red background photo on the marriage certificate, we were both grinning like absolute fools. Anyone could tell we were getting married by choice, enthusiastically so. The official stamped the corner of our photo with a big, bold seal of approval. We each received a little red booklet. My hands were shaking when I held mine. So were his. We were married. I married my first love. He swept me off my feet and lifted me in his arms. Then he planted a huge kiss on the side of my face and carried me out the front doors of the Civil Affairs Bureau. His breath was hot as he leaned in close to whisper in my ear. He softly called me wife. I was so embarrassed I couldn't even look at him. I covered my face with both hands, but my 8 little white teeth still peeked through my grin. I answered, husband. With our phones still off, the world felt blissfully quiet. On the way back to the villa, he took me on a quick spree to buy 2 sets of clothes. The moment we stepped through the door, he stripped off everything I was wearing again, and this time he tossed it all directly into the trash. Then he carried me into the bathroom to help me clean up. After our playful bath, I changed into the new pajamas we just bought and lay back on the soft, bouncy sofa, watching him from across the room as he cooked a very late breakfast for me in the kitchen. One of my favorite dishes from when we were together, shrimp and egg custard. He still remembered. When it was done, he brought it over and fed me bite by bite. There were some things that had to be dealt with no matter how messy. After we both had a proper wash and some food, we felt a lot more human. Ian turned his phone back on first. The moment it powered up, it was bombarded with calls. He answered the first one. It was one of his and Ethan's mutual friends. Damn, Ian, finally, where the hell are you? Don't tell me you're actually with Rachel Lewis. Do you even know what's happening? Ethan's gone completely insane. He's been speeding around the city all night looking for you. He's already torn through more than 10 of your properties. Today's his wedding day, and now both the groom and the bride are missing. Nobody can reach either of you. The guests on the groom's side have all arrived, but none of the bride's family even showed up. It's all over the internet now. The trending topic says, the Mew family's bride has run away. The entire web is laughing at the moose. He's heading to your villa on Poonen Road right now. I barely dared to breathe, but Ian stayed calm. I'm at Poonen Road. Let him come. After hanging up, Ian placed the empty dishes on the coffee table and held both my hands. Wife, go change your clothes. Once we're done dealing with Ethan, I'll go with you to see your parents. We need to explain everything so they don't worry. I nodded. Okay. We had just changed when Ethan started pounding on the front door. Ian pressed the remote to let him in. Ethan looked wrecked. His hair was a mess. His eyes were bloodshot and swollen. Dark circles bruising the skin underneath. Stubble had taken over his jaw. He didn't look like a groom. He looked like a man who'd lost everything. He came storming inside, rage practically radiating off of him like fire. First, he glared daggers at Ian. Then, he saw me behind Ian and took several deep, ragged breaths like he was swallowing his anger whole. Ignoring Ian, he tried to steady his voice as he looked at me and said, Rachel, today's our wedding day. Did you forget? Come on, it's not too late. Let's go get married. He reached out to grab my hand, but Ian slapped it away. You didn't hold the ceremony. You didn't get the certificate. Don't call her your wife, Ian said coldly. Ethan roared. We're going to the wedding now. Their eyes locked, tension growing with every second. Ian's expression hardened. I stepped forward and said, Ethan, I agreed to your pre-wedding freedom idea last night, but I never agreed to still marry you afterward. I'm sorry, but after last night, we're both single again. I can't marry you. Ethan's entire face twitched. From between clenched teeth, he asked Ian word by word, Did you sleep with her last night? Ian stared at him and replied coolly, What do you think? Before I could even react, Ethan threw a punch fast and hard, catching Ian off guard. You slept with my wife. You son of a Ian took the hit, but quickly steadied himself, then returned the favor without hesitation, punching Ethan square in the face. Ethan stumbled backward, crashing into the shoe cabinet near the door. Ian turned, grabbed a red marriage certificate from the nearby table and shoved it into Ethan's face. Look closely, he said through gritted teeth. Rachel Lewis is now my wife. Call her that again and see what happens. Ethan froze. His hands trembled as he took the certificate, staring at the photo inside, me and Ian, smiling like two overjoyed fools in front of a red background. The registration date stamped beside the photo was fresh, gleaming, undeniable. It was like Ethan finally found a crack in the wall. He grabbed Ian by the collar and looked at him, then at me, then back at Ian, his eyes filled with disbelief as he exploded. When did you two start hooking up? Were you messing around behind my back this whole time? He threw another punch at Ian's face and screamed. I treated you like my best brother, and this is how you stabbed me in the back. You slept with my woman, stole her from me. I hadn't even touched her yet. And you had the nerve to take her to register a marriage on our wedding day. I'll kill you, you heartless bastard. She was mine. Mine? The two of them started brawling, and I had no choice but to intervene. I threw myself between them and held Ethan back, shielding Ian. Maybe because I pulled him off balance. Maybe because Ian finally started hitting back harder. Ethan's cursing turned into sobs. His voice broke as he shouted, You call me a bastard? You're the bastard, Ian. He was crying now like a child throwing a tantrum. You were the person I trusted most. Do you know how hard I worked to chase after her? A whole year. I spent millions and couldn't win her over. I knelt in my dad's study for 3 days and nights. Took 3 days of punishment. My skin was practically flayed off before my father finally agreed to let me make my own choice about marriage. He pointed at me, eyes full of grievance. That's what finally convinced her I was serious. And even then, she wouldn't let me touch her. She said we needed to take things slow. But now you get everything. Just like that. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, completely falling apart. My parents never liked her. They thought she was just some scholarly nerd, totally disconnected from the family business. They didn't approve of me marrying her. But I was so proud. Do you know how proud I was? A tall, beautiful PhD in research. How many guys can say they married someone like that? In front of all my friends, I held my head high. They were all jealous. Way better than marrying some rich girl who only cares about shopping and facials. He turned to Ian, his voice cracking again. Why did you take her from me? I thought you loved your ex, the one who left you. Why not go back to her? Why steal what's mine? Give her back to me, Ian. Give her back to me. But the fight had completely fizzled out. Ethan collapsed onto the floor, flailing and sobbing like a broken man. I never imagined Ethan could look like this. Maybe I didn't know him as well as I thought I did. I remembered how he had chased me for a whole year, how his bright, enthusiastic energy had brought light into my dull research life. To be fair, I was touched by his persistence. There were many moments when I stopped thinking about Ian altogether. I thought I'd finally moved on from that distant first love. I even told myself that maybe I should treasure this second chance at love. If I missed it too, maybe I really would grow old alone. But the truth was, I didn't love Ethan enough. Not this young master from a wealthy family. I didn't have the energy for a relationship that was just for fun. Still, I had genuinely considered giving it a try with marriage in mind, something real. So one day when he was waiting for me outside the research institute again, I asked him, "Are you just playing around with me? You know how busy I am with my work. I don't have time for something casual. If I say yes, are we getting married?" He must have misunderstood. Maybe he thought I meant I was ready to marry him immediately. That night, after dropping me off at home, he looked at me with all the confidence in the world and said, "Give me 3 days. I'll give you a clear answer. Just wait." And then he really did kneel for 3 days and nights in his father's study. He took his father's brutal punishments without complaint, begging for permission to marry me. When he came back to me, bones aching, bruised and battered, he smiled and said, "My parents agreed. As long as you're willing, we can get married right away." Rachel Lewis, I've already given half my life for you. You can't reject me now. Looking at him then, how could I say no? I nodded. But maybe everything happened too fast. We jumped straight to the idea of marriage, and I couldn't help feeling uneasy. So when he first asked if he could stay the night at my place, I said no. Later, when he offered for me to stay at his, I turned him down again. After that, he never brought it up. He only kept pushing for us to get married as soon as possible, always saying that the rest didn't matter. I wasn't in a hurry. We were going to get married soon, so I thought we might as well save that beautiful moment for our wedding night. The thought of it even made him more excited. It wasn't until his little childhood sweetheart, Lily, found out that Ethan and I were getting married that things started to unravel. She came to me causing a scene, and only then did I realize they had actually been dating before. Ethan had already been involved with her, and only after he broke things off did he come chasing after me. But I didn't think it was a big deal. He fell in love with me, stopped loving Lily, ended things with her, and then came to pursue me. That order made sense. So, I didn't really hold it against him, even though Lily kept showing up in front of him whenever she had the chance. So when did things start to feel wrong? Probably after he met my parents. After both of our families met formally to discuss our marriage. My parents are just ordinary workers. They don't have much education and haven't seen much of the world. Compared to a family like Ethan's with assets in the hundreds of millions, they seemed out of place. As awkward in conversation, calloused hands, too shy to even extend for a handshake with the in-laws. They emptied their savings and still couldn't afford a decent doughy for me. I started to notice that Ethan's attitude toward me had changed. He used to always be humble and eager to please, trying hard to win me over. But gradually he began to act superior, as if he was doing me a favor. At first I didn't care. I wasn't the same girl I was 7 years ago. I never thought I wasn't good enough for a spoiled rich boy like Ethan. As long as he genuinely loved me and was faithful to our relationship, I didn't mind that he had nothing to do but spend money. Who said everyone needs to hustle to survive? But if we're talking about who's worthy of whom, me, a PhD in scientific research, a high-achieving scholar, someone with the potential to serve society and the people, someone with a future, why should I feel inferior to a guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth, who can't even recognize a full alphabet, whose degrees were all bought with money, and who squanders wealth like it's trash? If he thought I wasn't good enough for him, well, I didn't think he was good enough for me either. I thought he understood the balance between knowledge and wealth in our relationship. But after he saw how ordinary my family was, he really began to think that I was the one who had hit the jackpot. Like I should feel lucky to be with him. Like I should lower myself and cling to him, trying to please him just to keep him around. Then he started flirting with Lily again, clearly not having cut things off completely. And with Ian's return, my heart did waver. I hadn't even had time to confront Ethan about it before the wedding day arrived. On the night before our wedding, his actions, his words, they made me see him for what he really was. He didn't deserve me. He never did. And it gave me the courage to turn back, to try and reclaim that distant first love that had never truly left the softest part of my heart, watching Ethan cry and throw a tantrum on the floor like a child. Ian didn't even seem surprised. He probably understood Ethan better than I ever did. Bet. We grew up wearing the same pair of pants line wasn't just talk. Back then, Ian and I were in a secret relationship. He never introduced me to his friends or family. Until recently, when he returned to the country, none of us had known about each other's existence or the tangled history between us. Back then, Ian would often say to me, "Rachel, give me some time. I swear I'm serious about you. But I don't have a say in my family right now. Just wait for me a little longer, okay?" I always nodded and said, "Okay." I believed him. He wasn't a great diver, but he risked his life multiple times diving into deep waters just to find 108 rare pearls. For me, because that was my birth date. He used those pearls to create a luxurious and stunning jewelry set and presented it to me as a birthday gift. He was someone worth believing in with all my heart. I knew his family was well off. I assumed he came from a somewhat privileged background, but I had no idea just how wealthy, how powerful they really were until one day I was walking down the street. I was suddenly dragged into a black car by several men in dark suits. They forced me into a quiet private room. Inside sat a distinguished, elegant woman. After calmly stating her intentions, she pushed a check for $1 million across the table toward me. I was so ashamed I couldn't even lift my head to look at her. But I didn't want the money. I gently pushed it back. That's when I heard her soft, mocking laugh. "Little girl," she said, "you've got quite the appetite." Then that $1 million check turned into $10 million. She pushed it back toward me again. Her voice remained calm, almost tender. "If it's not enough, I can add more. To our family, this is nothing. Just 1 or 2 months of spare change, but you have to break up with my son and completely disappear from his life. He already has a fiancé. He didn't tell you, did he? They'll be getting married right after graduation. Her doughy alone is worth over $10 billion. What do you have?" At that moment, everything I believed in, my entire worldview collapsed. Never mind that astronomical dowie. Just that $10 million check she casually handed me would be money a regular person couldn't earn in several lifetimes. And this was how Ian's mother dealt with her son's secret. Poor girlfriend, by throwing money at me to make me go away. My parents together made less than $10,000 a month. I was just a normal student from a working-class family. Every number she spoke felt like a hammer to my dignity. I felt like a toad trying to swallow swan meat. This wasn't just about love anymore. The truth was I wasn't worthy of him. We were worlds apart like heaven and earth, and people need self-awareness. I fled, agreed to everything she demanded. I didn't take the money. That number, it scared me. After that, Ian didn't marry that so-called fiancé either. For some unknown reason, his family sent him abroad, cut off all contact, and used their influence to restrict his return to China. He was gone for 6 whole years. During those years, I buried myself in studying. I went straight from undergrad to a combined master's and PhD program. I never let myself pause. Not for a second. My inferiority complex had sunk deep into my bones. I was just a toad who had dared to fall in love with a prince who lived in the clouds. I worked and worked and worked, hoping that maybe, just maybe, I could become a slightly less ugly little frog, at least not so unsightly that people would find me repulsive. As I matured in age, in wisdom, and in education, my confidence gradually returned. I finally understood something. Whether it was Ian or Ethan, I had no reason to feel inferior. No need to devalue myself because love is equal. He loves me, Wants to be with me. Wants forever with me. I love him. Want to be with him. Want forever, too. That's all there is to it. If any obstacles arise along the way, we face them together. That's the truest and best way to handle it. Ian rolled up his sleeves and kicked Ethan twice in the backside. You went through all that trouble to chase after her. Why didn't you cherish her? You were so proud once you won her over. Why didn't you treasure her? You were getting married, and on the night before your wedding, you still wanted to fool around with your ex. Your bride got stolen and you think you're the victim? You deserved it. Ethan sat up from the floor, wiped away his tears, and snapped back. You think I did it on purpose? Lily and I grew up together. How could I not have feelings for her? I was just confused. Okay, I drank too much and lost my mind. That's why I said that stupid crap. Boo-hoo, he pointed at Ian, face twisted in betrayal. But you still went behind my back and stole her. Does your conscience not hurt? I'm telling you, we're done. From today on, we're through. I'll never forgive this. You're dead to me. Ian calmly brushed back his messy hair and exhaled. Dead to you? So, what you're saying is your Moo family doesn't want the South Sea project anymore. Bookmark. He raised an eyebrow. You do realize that deal is mine to approve now, right? If I kick you out and let that entire 100 billion yum project fall through for your family, you know how your hot-tempered dad would react? Wouldn't your dad break your legs in a rage? You have Ethan's fists clenched so tightly they turned white. Are you threatening me? Ian responded lightly. Yeah, I'm threatening you. So what? Ethan glared at him, furious, but couldn't get a single word out. Ian pulled me into his arms and nudged Ethan's knee with the tip of his shoe. If you surrender, then call her sister-in-law. From now on, when you see her, stand respectfully and keep your distance. Ethan's eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Ian for a whole minute before finally letting out a roar, clutching his head with both hands and sobbing loudly again. Should I try to comfort him? I pulled the corners of my mouth into an awkward smile but didn't know what to say. So, I turned to Ian for help. Without saying a word, Ian grabbed Ethan's ankles and started dragging him toward the door. Your sister-in-law and I just got our marriage certificate this morning. We're in the middle of our newlywed bliss. Why are you here playing the third wheel? Go home, dismiss your wedding guests, kill the trending topic, and explain everything to your parents. Tell them I'll come over and formally apologize in a few days. Ethan wailed even louder. You heartless bastard. I'll never forgive you. You're trash scum. A traitor. You toyed with your own brother like some pawn. Why did I even bother knowing you? Finally, Ian threw him out of the front door. And by the way, Ian added, I didn't steal your girl. You were the one who didn't cherish her. I just took her back. Ethan got up from the ground and grumbled, What the hell does that mean? Ian grabbed my hand and said with a calm but firm tone, Let me reintroduce Rachel Lewis. She's my first love. She's the reason I was exiled overseas for 6 years. The reason I drowned myself in alcohol and got hospitalized for alcohol poisoning more times than I can count. The reason you flew out of the country to visit a friend. The reason I never told you who I was heartbroken over because I was afraid you'd go behind my back and bother her, or that my mom would cause trouble for her again. He turned to Ethan, voice heavy with emotion. Rachel Lewis is the only woman I've ever loved in this life. And now she's my wife. So you'd better bury every little feeling you still have for her. Don't even think about it. You know what kind of person I am. One wrong move, and I could wipe out the entire MW family from the South Sea project. I don't want to go that far. Not to the family of the guy I grew up with. But don't push me. 5 years later, our daughter Little Honey turned 2. Her birthday party was held at an ancestral estate. Before the banquet began, Ian's grandmother was lovingly cradling her in her arms, placing a diamond-studded crown worth 200 million yuan on her little head. Our little princess was born to live a blessed life. Happy birthday, Grandma's precious Little Honey. Grandma loves you. Little Honey wrapped her arms around her grandmother's neck. Thank you, Grandma. I love you too. But then, as her eyes drifted past Honey, Grandma's smile faded. She saw Ian crouching down not far away, gently helping me adjust my socks and shoes. She sighed faintly, then pulled out a deed and handed it to Honey. Lately, I've been feeling dizzy every time I'm near water. I don't know why. It's annoying. That overseas estate I've had under my name for years. Over half of it is surrounded by water. I don't want it anymore. She gave a small huff. But your daddy loves swimming and diving. And our golden little grandson, he probably loves it too. With that, she shoved the deed into Honey's hands. Go give this to your mom. Tell her to take your baby brother and go enjoy it. That estate, with its prime location in massive grounds, was worth nearly 20 billion yen when it was purchased. It was the most valuable doughy her grandmother had brought into the marriage. Honey tilted her head in confusion. Where's my baby brother? Seeing my mother-in-law continue her cold, dismissive performance, Ian and I exchanged a helpless glance. He pulled Honey into his arms, tapped her little nose, then guided her small hand to rest gently on my belly. Right here. Maybe it was because I didn't accept that 10 million yen check from Ian's mother all those years ago that she saw me in a new light. Or maybe it was because I was no longer the same person I had been. I'd become a key researcher at a national institute, and by the second year of our marriage, I had already made significant contributions to society. In the end, Ian's parents weren't as opposed to our marriage as I once feared. Things were slowly, steadily moving toward peace and a happy,